A former New York Knick wants to return to the team, with the Knicks having a very specific need that this guy does cover. And with the Knicks having one spot left, there's a lot of discussion about it. Meanwhile, Donte Divincenzo has spoken out on the Knicks and former head coach Tom Thibodeau as well. And we are going to go over all of this in this Knicks news update. Guys, what's up? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. Guys, before we jump into the video, if you're part of that 56% that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily New York Knicks updates. We got a lot of great videos coming at you right now, and you do not want to miss out. So make sure to subscribe to have those post notifications on so you don't miss a single Knicks update. And let's jump into the video. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to throw this iced tea right at you. My lighting's excellent like it was in Montreal that one time. Let's talk some New York Knicks basketball, baby. As you saw in the thumbnail, because DeLon Wright's on the thumbnail, look, he wants to return to the New York Knicks. DeLon Wright had a very interesting job with the Knicks because he was traded for Jericho Sims to the Knicks when the Knicks and the Bucks made that deal. It didn't make sense at the time because the Knicks didn't really have that much big man depth. Mitchell Robinson wasn't back, and it did mean that Ariel Hukporti was going to get into the roster, or into the rotation, I should say, and he did. And Hukporti actually looked quite good until he tore his meniscus, which unfortunately was 3 games in. But when it comes down to it, when we look at DeLon Wright, he is someone who is a talented player. He belongs in the NBA. I believe DeLon Wright is an NBA level player, and he actually did quite well with the Knicks, weirdly enough. Now, the stats might not show it, but DeLon Wright was a helpful player for the Knicks when we just look at him as someone who can play good defense, control the tempo. He was the only guy who came into the game in the playoffs when he did play in those final couple of games where he actually did have a positive impact and was able to control the offense when Jalen Brunson was out of the game, because the Knicks didn't really have anyone else who could control tempo. DeLon Wright can. He's a true NBA point guard. He's 6'5", so he can play multiple positions, but he is a point guard at the end of the day, and he does give the Knicks some versatility, because even if they did bring in DeLon Wright, they could put Jordan Clarkson and Deuce McBride on the floor together, because DeLon Wright can easily guard a wing, because he is, again, he's 6'5", he's a big guard. He can handle it while also being the true point guard. And yeah, it's going to be small, but the Knicks are likely going to be looking at some small ball anyway, so it's not the craziest thing in the world. But when we look to DeLon Wright's comments on the Knicks, he said, "I would love to go back to New York, but we'll see what happens. I'm open to going to any team that wants to use my services." Well, DeLon Wright's services on the numbers don't look great from last year. In 16 minutes per game between the Knicks and the Bucks, mainly with the Bucks, he put up 3 points per game, 1.7 rebounds, and 2 assists. He only shot 34% from the field and 27% from 3. He did shoot 42% on corner threes, so there is that. And the NBA veteran is a lot better than he seems. He's better than these numbers, and I do want to point that out. I've actually been a fan of DeLon Wright for a while. Now, all that being said, I did want the Knicks to waive DeLon Wright for a big man. I wanted them to waive him for Moses Brown specifically. That didn't end up happening, and I ended up loving DeLon Wright by the end of the playoffs. Now, I was a fan of him prior. I liked him in Washington. I liked him on the Raptors, of course. Like, there was times that, I mean, DeLon's been around. He's been to multiple different teams, and his longest tenured stay was with Toronto, and I liked him there. I thought he was a very solid player, and if you go and talk to any Raptors fan, or, well, Raptors Digest Ben Rogers, you could mention DeLon Wright. He definitely would be he'd be thrilled to talk about him. Now, or he wouldn't make a video on him, but he would get excited. I want to text him right now and just be like, "Hey, what's your thoughts on DeLon Wright?" But when we look at DeLon Wright as a player, he is very solid. He gave the Knicks a lot of good. I mean, he put up 2 points per game and 1 assist in the playoffs in those final 4 games when he got actual minutes. But the biggest thing about Wright was the way that he guarded Tyrese Haliburton. He was honestly the best defender on Tyrese Haliburton out of everyone throughout that entire Pacers series, and he deserves a lot of credit for that, which is super, super, super important when we consider everything surrounding how the Knicks have, right above me is Mikal Bridges. There's also OG Anunoby and Deuce McBride, and DeLon Wright was the best defender on Tyrese Haliburton, which he does deserve a lot of credit for when you look at everything. Now, fans did talk about DeLon Wright when he made these comments, saying, "Seems like a super chill dude. Would be nice to have him with us for the last 5 years. I'd take him over Brogdon or Ben Simmons. Unk played good D and is ready to go in the playoffs. DeLon is cool, but I'd rather have 5 guys over him." Now, this used to be a good account for, well, that's just hate. Don't hate on Knicks news, man. He's not Knicks news. Well, he is, but he's also a Knicks fan page. Why are you hating on Knicks news? What did he do wrong? I did get this from Knicks news, by the way, or it might have been New York basketball. But people hate on both these accounts. They're both excellent accounts. Them and Let's Talk Knicks are the best accounts. So stop hating, all of you. Stop being haters. Why are you hating? You hate on my comments too, and I get it, the titles, but I don't make all of them. Look, that's not the point. That's not the point. We're getting off track. Look, when it comes down to it, when we look at DeLon Wright, he actually was a very, very, very very nice player with the Knicks, and we see it through the advanced lineups and the metrics, because two of the lineups that DeLon writes in, you see him highlighted right there, have some of the best net ratings of these teams that against the Pacers. These are the lineups that played the most minutes together. Unsurprisingly, the top one was the starting unit for the entire season outside of the final few games, with Brunson, Hart, OG, Mikal, and Towns. Now, we then look at the situation where we kind of go down and we see a little bit of changes, whether it's that the next lineup they use with Brunson, OG, Mitch, Mikal, Towns, that stuff. Obviously, that one was more successful. Wasn't great, but the top one was terrible. We see a bunch of lobs, and then one of the best ones with a net rating of 30.4 is DeLon Wright, Towns, OG, Josh Hart, and Landry Shamet. We saw who the Knicks put in be very, very effective, and then also we saw DeLon Wright have some success with that lineup of him, Towns, Josh Hart, Shamet, and Deuce McBride. So we've actually, first of all, we've seen them run in kind of 3-guard sets in a way. Again, DeLon and Landry Shamet can guard a few different positions and play a few different positions, if we're being honest, and so could Deuce. He could play the one or the two. So we see this versatility, and it worked. So honestly, he's been a productive player for the Knicks. He's shown that lineups are good with him out there. He's having a positive impact on the court against the Indiana Pacers, and that matters a lot. And I think DeLon Wright deserves a lot of credit for that. But also, we do have more to talk about, because someone who we all love and always will love in Donte Divincenzo recently spoke out on the New York Knicks and discussed the Tom Thibodeau situation and much more. And Fred Katz broke a bunch of that down. Now, it was mentioned by Sports Illustrated that Donte Divincenzo, currently stationed with the Minnesota Timberwolves, was said to have staunchly defended Tom Thibodeau when his teammates partook in an annual player poll conducted by Fred Katz's outlet, The Athletic. He reportedly took issue with some considering the ousted New Yorker as an answer in the category of worst coach. Katz noted that the wording of the question was changed this time around. Ordinarily, it asked players to identify the coach they'd least like to play for, but it was changed to a more broad definition of who do you think is the worst coaches. Fresh off a year in Manhattan, Divincenzo was ready to confront anyone who would write in Tom Thibodeau's name. Donte would follow around reporters who were taking the answers, and when it got to the coach question, Donte would be like, you better not say Tom Thibodeau. He's the best. He was gatekeeping Tibbs. That guy loves Tibbs, as Fred Katz mentioned. He would play for him in a second, because Donte is honestly like a different personality type than Tibbs. Same values, same mentality, same approach to work as Tibbs. Donte Divincenzo loves Tibbs more than either of us on the podcast he was on. He said, like our own mothers. So that's funny. That's a funny quote by Katz. He said, it's crazy how much Donte Divincenzo loves Tibbs. And we know that Devo loved Tibbs. He had a great year under him. Now, Devo last season put up a really good season in Minnesota. He averaged 26 minutes per game, put up 11.7 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 3.6 assists. He shot 42% from the field and 40% from three, with most of his shots coming from behind the arc, as Donte does nowadays. Donte's absolutely excellent. We love Donte Divincenzo so much. But his best season was with the Knicks. Under Tom Thibodeau, put up 15.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. He was an excellent defender, shot 40.1% from 3, broke the record for most threes hit in a single season by a New York Knick, a record that Evan Fournier had set just a few years prior. Shout out Evan Fournier, remember him? And when we look at everything, Donte was absolutely excellent, and his game only improved in the playoffs when he put up 18 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. He got in Joel Embiid's face multiple times, specifically when Joel Embiid pulled down Mitch's leg, injuring him. Donte was right there. He's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, Donte was ready to throw hands with a 7-foot monster that is Joel Embiid, who could have tackled Donte and absolutely put his head through the floor. But Donte didn't care. That's who he is as a person. And I mean, he shot 42% from 3, had that 39-point game. He was the only guy who was fighting the Pacers in Game 7. Obviously, JB had that broken hand in the end. But Donte never gave in, he never gave up, and he gave the Knicks a reason to love him forever. We will never not love Donte Divincenzo as Knicks fans. He's probably the greatest one-year player in Knicks history, and you could ask any New York Knicks fan, if you could have a former Knick in the NBA right now back on the team, it's Donte. It clearly is Donte. He would fit so well on this team as the starter over Josh Hart. I mean, dude, if you wanted to run that small ball still, or not even that small ball, but if you wanted to not start Mitch and have Cat as the 5, I mean, JB, Donte Divincenzo, Mikal, OG, and Cat would be so fun to watch with that shooting. I miss Donte. I miss him every day. I don't know why I'm saying this like he's passed away. He's not. He's happy. He's in Minnesota. He almost went to the Timberwolves as well, so he's actually on a team that he is happy with. But I am going to miss Donte as a Knick, and he's not the only one to speak up on behalf of Tom Thibodeau. It's Tyronn Lue, who coached with Tibbs, who was an assistant coach in Boston, when the Celtics won the NBA Finals. He said, so everybody that Indiana beat, you want to fire their coach? It doesn't make sense. Should Tibbs have been fired? Hell no. I mean, it's the first time they've been to the conference finals in 25 years. 25 years. And so the city was on fire. The fans were on fire. The players did a hell of a job, and Tibbs did a hell of a job. And to take that team to their first conference finals in 25 years and then get fired, like, it just doesn't make sense. So everybody that Indiana beat, you want to fire their coach? Like I said, I thought Tibbs did a great job, but you never know the inside of what's going on with their organization. But everywhere he's been, he wins. Everywhere. Chicago, Minnesota, the Knicks, every team he's been on has gotten better, you know? And to do that, I thought it was crazy. Now, I've mentioned this before, Tom Thibodeau. I'm not claiming to have a million insiders. I have one, and what I heard is that none of the players truly understood their role with the Knicks. They just didn't get it. They didn't know their role. Tibbs wasn't really carving out a role. It was just figure it out on offense. He refused to let anyone else run the offense. He was standoffish with the front office, and all of this kind of led to his being fired. Also, the lack of changes. The fact that he was very stubborn to making changes, it led to his ultimate demise as the head coach of the Knicks. Look, similar to Donte, but not as much, because I was fine with the Tibbs firing. I was really sad when Donte got traded, and Julius, of course. I love Julius Randle as well. Firing Tibbs was probably the right decision. It probably was. If the players were like, yeah, we don't understand our role. We don't know what we're doing here. He's not being clear. And none of them had undying faith in Tibbs. So, all that being said, I think the Knicks knew they were firing Tibbs. When you look at Jalen Brunson's answer is, should Tibbs be back as the head coach next year? And he's like, what kind of question is that? Yes, he should be. I think JB knew. I think he knew the writing was on the wall, and he wanted to defend Tibbs because him and Tibbs are very close, and they are to this day. I'm going to miss Tibbs as the coach of the Knicks. I really like Tom Thibodeau. He's a great guy. He was a good head coach of the Knicks. He's the best coach the Knicks have had since Jeff Van Gundy. Hopefully Mike Brown can do an excellent job with the Knicks, and hopefully the Knicks can win an NBA Finals, because that would be the greatest moment of a lot of our lives. Guys, like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Guys, if you don't subscribe, Tom Thibodeau is going to show up to your house, and he's going to crash on your couch for 6 weeks, and you don't want that. Or maybe you do. Maybe he's a good house guest. I don't know. Maybe he'll make you breakfast. What the hell is wrong with me? Have a great day and go Knicks.